As I was saying before, most of us already know that there is a $1.5 trillion rescue plan that has already been approved. We also know that there's negotiations going on with Senator Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and others, as well as the rest of the Democrats, when it comes to the $3.5 trillion infrastructure stimulus bill, that it may go down to being less than $2 trillion. But the problem that most individuals are still having is understanding exactly what's in the bill. We're going to be hearing from Senator Bernie Sanders giving us details on what exactly is inside of this reconciliation stimulus bill.
All right, here is the bottom line. The bottom line is that in America today, as I think all of you know, the people on top are doing phenomenally well. Billionaire class is making money head over heels. We have more income and wealth inequality in America today than we have had in 100 years. You got two people who own more wealth than the bottom 40%, to 1% own more wealth than the bottom 92%. Meanwhile, you and millions of people are working paycheck to paycheck. About half of America is working paycheck to paycheck, and the pandemic has made a difficult situation in many respects even worse. So, what a number of months ago, many months ago, what the president and many of us, all of those who are on the panel and many of you, we sat down and we said, okay, we got to do two things. Number one, we got to figure out a way to deal with the economic crisis that the pandemic caused. And that is massive unemployment, that is hunger, that is hospitals running out of money, small businesses going bankrupt. How do we deal with all of that? How do we make sure that we get vaccines into the arms of the American people? And what we developed was a plan called the American Rescue Plan, which passed in the middle of the night with one vote. Vice President cast the deciding vote in the Senate and the House. They passed it by a small margin as well. We did not get one Republican to support that bill. That got direct cash payments into people's pocket. And to my mind, that program was enormously successful in helping us economically to get out of the recession or the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. Now, we did that, and I'm proud of what we did. But then we also understood that it is not enough to get us out of the crisis caused by the pandemic. We have finally got to deal with the structural crises that have plagued working families decade after decade, way before Trump. Decade after decade after decade. Low-paying jobs, inadequate housing, inadequate health care, inadequate child care, etc., etc. And we came up with initially, I'm chairman of the Budget Committee in the Senate, a $6 trillion plan. Well, that was too much for some of my more conservative colleagues. So we cut that down reluctantly to $3.5 trillion. But I want to tell you, I'll give you an overview, and the panelists will go into each of these areas at greater length. I want to tell you what is in the bill, all right? We have had for decades the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. This is America. We should not have millions and millions of children living in poverty. And what this bill does is provides for universal pre-K, that's for kids 3 and 4 years old. So we're making pre-K part of public education. That's an extraordinary step forward, and we're prepared to put hundreds of billions of dollars into child care so that no household in America pays more than 7% of their limited incomes, on child care. Huge. Start paying child care workers the kind of wages that they deserve for the important work they do. This money will continue the $300 direct payment that working parents are now receiving, which has helped us through the American Rescue Plan, cutting childhood poverty in half in America. That is a huge deal. This legislation addresses the crisis in housing. We got 600,000 people who are homeless in America. We deal with that, the largest amount of money put into affordable housing that has ever been seen in the history of this country, to abolish homelessness and to end the high cost of housing that so many working families have to pay. This legislation expands Medicare so that millions of seniors will finally be able to go to a dentist, be able to buy the hearing aids and the eyeglasses that they need. This legislation expands greatly home health care. We are an aging society. You have families all over America where elderly people, people with disabilities want to stay at home, but they're forced into nursing homes because we don't have adequate number of workers taking care of them. We invest very heavily in home health care. This legislation says to our young people, there are jobs, good paying jobs out there. You don't have the skills for them. We're going to make community colleges tuition free. And this legislation, in a very significant way, deals what the scientists tell us we have got to do, and that is the United States has got to lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel, cut carbon emissions, move to sustainable energy and energy efficiency. Many, many hundreds of billions of dollars. And one of the areas that we're going to work on is the concept of a civilian climate corps, giving young people good wages and educational benefits as they help us transform our energy system.
Now that Senator Sanders has given us a breakdown of exactly what's inside of the bill, we no longer have to guess what's going to be in this infrastructure stimulus bill. Remember, it's in two parts. We're talking about the second part right now, the part that's going on the 3.5 trillion to 2 trillion. We don't know what the number is going to be, but at least we know that it's going to be a bill in which the Democrats are going to have to pass themselves, because the Republicans have already stated that they are not going to get involved with passing it. Now, they already did the bipartisan bill, which is going to need to be still passed by the House. That is the American Rescue Plan. So remember, the infrastructure bill is one part is family, which they're negotiating now. The other part is rescue, and which is just sitting on the table waiting for the House of Representatives to vote on it. That's the first part, which was the 1.5 trillion. So now that we understand that part a little bit more, we have Representative Cortez, also known as AOC, is going to give us a breakdown of why it's been so important for individuals that are in the housing, for individual workers across the country to hold strikes and stand up for your rights, as well as making sure that you have a safe work environment.
I think one of the most exciting stories of this year in our country is the increased militarism of the labor movement in the United States. We are seeing strikes. I mean, it started off in January right here in the Bronx. We had the Teamsters threaten to walk off the job in order to get a raise. We won. Then after that, we started seeing organizing happening all across the country. Mary Kay had mentioned the Amazon Drive in Bessemer. We are starting to see John Deere strikes. We have IATSE. They've got their strike authorization. You have Kaiser. You have CWA. There are strikes happening around the country with existing members of unions. Now, what would happen if we allowed people all across the United States to unionize and collectively bargain the way that these unions are doing right now in order to elevate their quality of life? That is why these provisions are so incredibly important for us to fight for. Right now, you know, I'm heading up to Buffalo this weekend. Bernie, I know you endorsed India Walton, so did I. And in Buffalo, there are Starbucks workers that are attempting to unionize their cafes, their workplaces. And we have been seeing what's been happening out there. These Starbucks locations, they are requiring mandatory anti-union meetings while their workers are on the clock. How is stuff like this legal? How is it legal? Or you have Amazon that was lobbying to kind of put up USPS kind of postal boxes, which is why that whole election got overturned, that abuse of power in order for them to intimidate workers. So these key provisions from the PRO Act in reconciliation and the PRO Act overall would really protect workers and really penalize workplaces that use these tools to try to dismantle the labor movement in the way that they have tried to and the way that they have eroded it over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And so what's really important is that we reinstitute those protections, because a strong labor movement is going to be very critical from now in the rest of all of our lifetimes in securing a lot of these victories, not just legislatively, but also with the tactic of withholding labor.
This is why there are over 11 million jobs available right now, and over 4 million individuals across the country have walked away from their current jobs, because it is time for change in the United States. It's time for individuals to stand up and no longer be a part of the 85% of the individuals that are not happy with their jobs but go there day in and day out. It's time for you to start focusing on the careers that you really want to focus on, no matter what age you are. And now more than ever is the best time for you to make the moves that you want to make towards a better career for yourself and your loved ones. Well, my name is Andre of Mostly Money, and I'm here to give you all facts. No fake, no phony, and no fluffed up information when it comes to what's going on in politics today. And if you're interested in getting this information on a daily basis, well, you've made it to the right channel. All you need to do for yourself now is subscribe. Click that notification bell so you get the latest and greatest information coming from Mostly Money, because we're going to always be here for you and your loved ones. I'll be meeting you guys in the comments section, because I'm always there. If I don't get a chance to speak to you and you don't get a chance to speak to me, we are not going to fret about it, because I'll be speaking to you again.